A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another book review today, so cheers. Now, those of you that have watched the channel know that I am a fan of fantasy. I mean, just look at my shirt, look at the role-playing games behind us. And that kind of all started, of course, from my mother and a birthday gift on my 10th birthday, that being Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone's Phantoms of Fear. Let me just kind of get the chair out of the way. I'm not going to go into the background of all of this, with Trial of Champions, Legend of the Shadow Warriors, the Dungeon of Blood Island, which I really did, I recently, I should say, did a playthrough of and completely fucked it up, which was absolutely fantastic. And other game books like the Lone Wolf series. I have the first 5 here: Flight from the Dark, Fire on the Water, Caverns of Culti, Chasm of Doom, and Shadow on the Sand. Now, Lone Wolf I never played growing up as a kid. I was familiar with them, but never really got into them because I was a fighting fantasy kid. They were the shit for me. So I am really happy to bring you this book review today. Magic Realms, The Art of Fighting Fantasy by Ian Livingstone and Jonathan Green. Now, this is an absolutely superb book. However, it does have some flaws. Namely, 2 big ones that might turn some of you little Plaguelandians off of purchasing this. Sorry, I'm holding my hand weird. I actually injured it yesterday, and it's very painful. Now, the first flaw this book has is that it doesn't go into artist techniques. And that's always something that I enjoy looking at, is how artists drew their kind of composition of the art itself. The second major flaw, the art has no titles. It doesn't tell you what books the art actually belonged to. A lot of them you can kind of work out if you're a fan of the franchise, but other than that, that is a really big flaw in this book. But with that said, the art in this book is so fucking cool, I'm willing to overlook that. So, let's just jump straight into the next episode of
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
So this is Magic Realms, The Art of Fighting Fantasy. This is, in my personal opinion, one of the best art books that I own, and I do kind of tend to gravitate and collect art books that are centered on the fantasy IPs that I loved as a kid. It just brings back so many nostalgic memories for me. We have a fantastic cover here. Those of you might know who this is. This is Zagor, the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, from the very first fighting fantasy game book ever written. Still a fantastic experience. This hardcover book is put together so nicely. So we have Magic Realms, we have the thank yous, and then this is just a list of all of the artists who have contributed to fighting fantasy over the decades. We have a foreword written by Ian Livingstone himself, which is a great insight into the author, his relationship with Steve Jackson, a little bit of Games Workshop information here, but more on that later. Jonathan Green writes the introduction, a little thing about the numbering of the books, which I thought was quite interesting. And then we come to Chris Achilleos. I might butcher some of these names. And for every artist, you get a little kind of biography. And then we have cover art here. The art for Titan, the Fighting Fantasy World. Beautiful. Out of the Pit. I believe this was the Trolltooth War, I believe the novel was called. We have Robert Ball. And then we have kind of some little pictures here. The art is just awesome. One thing I do want to note is I never really got into the sci-fi fighting fantasy books. I was always like fantasy. We have the Manticore here. Oh, just beautiful art. The art for the caveman from Out of the Pit, which also appeared. I believe that's the Astronomer's Tower. There's the Fire Demon. My good friend, Mr. Ian Van Gannett, will know all about that after his playthrough of, I believe it was Forest of Doom, possibly. Now, when it comes to fighting fantasy books, the art really does play a large part in your enjoyment of it, because some of the art when I was a kid wasn't as good as the more realistic stuff, and it kind of turned me off a little bit. But this was the book 4 of the Sorcery 4-book series. The Shamanti, I want to say it's the Shamanti or the Shamananti Hills, Car City Port of Traps, the Seven Serpents, and Crown of Kings, I believe, or Crown of Sorcery. There we go. Beautiful. And that was the art in the books themselves. The harpy there, the ghost. You do get your bang for your buck with this book. Like, you get a lot. Steve Jackson's Sorcery, The Land of Kakabad. So, yeah. The what is it? Hold on. The Shumatanti Hills. Okay, so book 1, you went here. And then book 2, you went to Car City Port of Traps. And then in book 3, you went to the Bucklands. And you fought your way all the way over to Manpang Fortress. And that was the 4-book series, which I played, I loved, never completed a single one. But those of you that watch my channel know that that is a growing theme with fighting fantasy. And you know what? I don't care. I would replay these books over and over and over, loving every single minute of them. Just absolutely brilliant. Okay, Brian Bullard, Jim Burns. Again, these were books that I never got into, just because I liked the more fantasy-based ones. Look at that. Kev Crossley. This was the kind of art I really liked in the books themselves, the more realistic stuff. Les Edwards. Oh, just amazing art. This is bringing back so many memories. Crypt of the Sorcerer. I absolutely loved this book. Absolutely loved it. Oh my God. Vault of the Vampire. Gives you kind of Strad von Zarovich meets Dracula kind of vibes, although Strad von Zarovich from Ravenloft is more menacing. This was a fun one. I forget the title of the book that this was the cover for, although at the end of this you will actually see it. I really enjoyed this one as a kid. I would play it over, like I would die and then roll up a new character and start again like 3 or 4 times in a row on a Saturday or a Sunday. This book was really cool. I mean, look at the guy's riding 2 fucking tigers with a hawk on his arm. Jesus. Okay, that Demons of the Deep was that one. That would be Return to Fire Top Mountain, or possibly the redone version of Warlock of Fire Top Mountain. Lizard on a pterodactyl. Come on. Yep. Oh, this was Keep of the Lich King. This was another favorite of mine. Really, really enjoyed that one. So good. Oh, the samurai one. Oh man, this was awesome. There was recently a Kickstarter to bring back, I believe it was the first 5 fighting fantasy novels, maybe the first 6, which I backed because this is a franchise that is so near and dear to my heart and so intrinsic to my childhood, and that shaped me into the sort of reader that I am today, that I just can't pass this stuff up. Then we have Galantria. This is the kind of gothic horror fantasy where Vault of the Vampire and Legend of the Shadow Warriors was set in. These maps are so cool. I only had them in black and white though. This is my first time seeing them in color, to be perfectly honest with you, which is really, really cool. I love these maps. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Look at this. Look at this art. You are not going to find better art. The original, first ever fighting fantasy book, The Warlock of Fire Top Mountain, I actually had this copy. It was difficult. I never completed it. If you want to play a fun, toned downish version of it, you can actually get it on Steam as this kind of top-down, dice-rolling adventure RPG game. It's really fun. It is a lot of fun. I love that kind of stuff. Right up there with the Warhammer Quest video game. It's really cool. Okay, I had Starship Traveler, but to be perfectly honest with all of you, I never played it because I just wasn't that interested in the sci-fi aspect of these books. I don't know where or how I got it, but yeah. Here we go. We get a little bit of concept art here for this picture, but, you know, I like a little more depth and detail. Oh, I believe this was from Trial of Champions, or it could be Island of the Lizard King. One of those two. We have the Cyclops. I think it was Island of the Lizard King, yeah. We have the Hook Horror. There, the Rhinoceros Dude. Giant crabs. Awesome. What was this? Forest of Shadows? Forest of Doom? Something like that. The Blood Beast from Death Trap Dungeon, probably the most iconic fighting fantasy book of all time and one of my favorite covers of all time. I've only come up against this thing once and it kicked my ass. And since then, playing Death Trap Dungeon, I've never gotten back to the Blood Beast. The Dungeon on Blood Island, which I read, reviewed, played. This comes straight from Death Trap Dungeon. This is also the image they use in Titan, the Fighting Fantasy World, when talking about the rivalry between the brothers Baron Succumvit and Lord Karnus. The Mirror Demon, so cool. Some of these images are really quite horrific, but as a kid, they were just freaking awesome. I remember this cover, but I don't remember the book. There is the The snake chick who is in Port Blacksand, she is kind of under the protection of the pirate king of Port Blacksand, who, if I remember rightly, is called Lord Azur. Port Blacksand being, if you think of in the Forgotten Realms, Calimsham, it's kind of like a pirate haven. Really, really cool. And City of Thieves was set in Port Blacksand. Oh, come on, are you kidding me? Port of Peril. Oh, awesome. This was the a newer book about the giant Shadow of the Giants or something along those lines, which I believe I played on the channel. Didn't get very far, but that is typical of most of my playthroughs. This might be a redone Forest of Doom cover. Firetop Mountain there, that's Zagor. Island of the Lizard King, I believe. Yeah, just beautiful art. These are now territory that I didn't get into. These are past my time playing these games. It's seriously a series that I wish I had kept because it's so nostalgic for me, and to get them now, especially the amount that I had, it's just not feasible. So I'll get them when I can, play them, and we'll see what happens. But these are just some of my fondest memories growing up. They really are. At school, we used to get merit certificates, and you got a certain amount of merit certificates. You got the next one, you got the next one. And then you got this thing. If you got enough merit certificates, you got this principal's award, and it was a voucher to the local record store, so you could get a CD, or the local bookstore. And without a doubt, for me, it was always, I was a bit of a smarmy ass overachiever. It was always the bookstore, and it was always to get a fighting fantasy book, without fail. I mean, look at that, like all the villains. Come on. I believe this was the redone cover for Citadel of Chaos, but I might be wrong there. This one was kind of House of Hell. I had this. I did play it once. It was okay, but it just wasn't fantasy enough. Phantoms of Fear, the very first fighting fantasy book cover I ever saw in my life. It's got freaking demons coming out of a bigger demon's nose. As a 10-year-old kid, how is that not fucking cool? Man, oh man. Just... yeah, the Minotaur, the Ghoul. This is all from Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the original Warlock of Firetop Mountain, which, I might add, my gaming group, Mr. Ian Van Gammett and Dr. Luke Carmen, are playing through at the moment using the Advanced Fighting Fantasy 2nd Edition rules. And we had a session, Ian and I had a session last Friday, which was super fun. He got through the Orc Barracks after a little drunken thing in town, and then when he got to the next section, he ran into Dr. Luke Carmen's character. Ian's playing a warrior, and Dr. Luke Carmen is, I believe, a generic adventurer. I could be wrong about that, but either way, it was an absolute blast, and the session is going well, and we are just having so much fun with the lore and the history. And every time something comes up, Ian will go, oh, that's from this or that's from that. It's just a nostalgia overload for sure. Just some beautiful... These were the page art you got in the game books themselves. Now, this book, I believe it's Nightmare Castle or something like that. I never actually got it as a kid because it always looked sci-fi to me. And it wasn't until years later when I realized it wasn't that I got it and played it. And it's really, really good. Yeah. Legend of the Shadow Warriors. Yeah, another one. This one always looked to me sci-fi, but it's not. The cover is a little misleading, but I eventually got it and really enjoyed it. I mean, the dude's riding a giant bat. Are you kidding me? I believe this was the redone City of Thieves. I could be wrong, though. This was the original cover for the Advanced Fighting Fantasy First Edition book. Then we get... This was the cover for not Advanced Fighting Fantasy, but just the Fighting Fantasy role-playing game, which I had. And they made one campaign for it called The Riddling Reaver, again, which I had. And this was a pretty cool, like, just a way to include all your friends into playing Fighting Fantasy. Advanced Fighting Fantasy kind of upped the stakes a bit, but this was still really, really cool. Scorpion Swamp, the cover. Caverns of the Snow Queen, I believe. Shirella is her name. Caverns of the Snow Witch, maybe. This was the art that I kind of didn't like as much as the other art, but it's still really, really good. And that is a really difficult scenario because once you kill her, you kill the main villain, it's not over. You still have to backtrack all the way because you get cursed, and you've got to find the holy man on the mountain who can cure the curse. So it's a really difficult one. That's an ice demon. I believe that's a banshee. Yeah, that was a good one. And then we get some kind of lesser known artists who did, like, you know, the covers of Citadel of Chaos, Crystal of Storms, one that I would really like to get my hands on. So yeah, we just get these lesser known artists. Trial of Champions, one of my all-time favorites. It used to be a trilogy. Death Trap Dungeon, Trial of Champions, Armies of Blood. And then, you know, the Dungeon on Blood Island kind of raises the stakes a bit. Then we get the overseas artists. The overseas editions that came out, which are just insane. Then we have the Puffin books. Okay. Warlock of Firetop Mountain was number one. Now, this part of the book, when I opened it up and I was flicking through it, damn near shit my pants like my cat is doing in his litter box. You might be able to hear it. I will go quiet for a moment so you can hear him doing his business. Have you all done pooping? Esto poopins, mate? Rio, Esto poopins? You can tell we're friends at home. Esto poopins? Was it stinky? Okay then. Good boy. Now, here's the cover to the original Warlock of Firetop Mountain, but when I turn this page, it's going to be every original book cover in order, and I'm going to point out the ones that I had. Okay, these are the Puffin versions. Okay. I had Warlock of Firetop Mountain, I had the Citadel of Chaos, I had Forest of Doom, I had Starship Traveler, I had City of Thieves, I had Death Trap Dungeon, I had Island of the Lizard King, I had Scorpion Swamp, I had Caverns of the Snow Witch. I had House of Hell, I had Talisman of Death, I didn't have this one, Didn't have this one. I had Temple of Terror. I didn't have this one. I had Seas of Blood. I didn't have Appointment with Fear or Rebel Planet. I had Demons of the Deep. I had Swords of the Samurai. I had Trial of Champions. I didn't have Robot Commando. I had Masks of Mayhem. I had Creature of Havoc. This was a great one because you basically woke up not knowing what you were, and you had to work out exactly what monster you were as the game progressed. I eventually got, what does that say? Beneath Nightmare Castle. Crypt of the Sorcerer was awesome. I didn't have Star Striker. I had Phantoms of Fear. I had Midnight Rogue. I had Cousins of Malice. I had Battleblade Warrior. I eventually got Slaves of the Abyss. I didn't have this. I had Stealer of Souls. I had Daggers of Darkness. I had Armies of Death. This one. Trial of Champions and Death Trap Dungeon. Armies of Death was awesome because you actually... the story was you won Death Trap Dungeon. You got 10,000 gold. And then you built an army and you went out and conquered other armies. It was so much fun. Okay. I had Portal of Evil. I had Vault of the Vampire. I had Fangs of Fury. What is this? Dead of Night. This was a cool one as well. I like this one. Master of Chaos I had. Black Vein Prophecy I had. Keeper of the Lich Lord I had. Legend of the Shadow Warriors I had. Spectral Stalkers I had. Tower of Destruction I had. This was difficult. I really never got very far in that one. I did not have this. I did not have this. I had Siege of Sardath. I didn't have Return to Firetop Mountain. I only got that recently. I didn't have Island of the Undead. Didn't have Night Dragon. I did have Spellbreaker. I didn't have The Legend of Zagor. Didn't have Deathhammer. Didn't have Knight of Doom. Didn't have Mage Hunter. Didn't have Revenge of the Vampire. Didn't have Curse of the Mummy. And I had all 4 of the sorcery books as well. So you can see my collection was pretty vast. And sometimes what I like to do is just keep the same character going through with the same equipment stuff. Even if I died, I just say you got knocked unconscious and goes on another adventure. Against the rules, but who fucking gives a shit? It's a homebrew. I did see Mage Hunter in a bookstore once, and I was at university, and I'm like, I'm too old for that stuff now. No, I'm not. Fucking hell, I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm still playing this shit. What was 20-year-old me thinking? I'm a fucking idiot. And then we have the Wizard books. So these are kind of like the different covers and the different versions of them. You can see there. Then we have the Scholastic books, which I believe I've played a few of these, and these are kind of the ones that Shadow of the Giants, the Port of Peril. And then we have the overseas editions of the Scholastic books. The Warlock of Firetop Mountain collection, all the covers for the Warlock of Firetop Mountain. Warlock, the Fighting Fantasy magazine. I had a few issues of this. It was really cool. And then graphic novels. I never even knew these fucking things existed. City of Thieves. The Trolltooth Wars. Oh, this was the first Fighting Fantasy novel. My friend Mr. Ian Van Gammett has a copy of this, the lucky bastard. Freeway Fighter. Then you got miniatures, again. Never even knew these existed. But they look freaking cool. And then you have the library. This is just a list of all the Fighting Fantasy books, when they came out, what their number is, who wrote them, who did the art for them, all of that kind of stuff, just if you want your collection to be complete. The authors and then your index there. And I believe this was a Kickstarter. Wow, I didn't actually realize this was a Kickstarter. Okay, that's cool. These are all the people that pledged on the Kickstarter. Good on all of you guys for making this book happen. And of course, you got the Blood Beast on the back. So, that is Magic Realms, The Art of Fighting Fantasy. Would I recommend this to people who enjoyed fighting fantasy? Of course. Would I recommend this to people who enjoy fantasy art? Of course. Would I recommend this to people who fucking hate this kind of shit and would like, I'm never fucking buying an art book, this waste of time? Yeah, I'm going to recommend it to any fucking person that I see. I absolutely love this book. And this is basically one of my most favorite art books next to The Art of Dragonlance that I actually own, and this is a keeper in my collection. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that other good stuff. But most importantly, go out there, get your hands on a fighting fantasy game book, read a fucking book, and roll some fucking dice, people.